Hey, Lee Robinson here from American Sentinel Canine. So in this video, we're going to talk about objective truth in order to produce the best dogs possible, and also in order to become the best version of yourself. Now, before I go on and continue in this video, let me openly admit I don't have all the answers, okay? And nobody does. And that's really the purpose of this video, is to discuss pursuing truth. All right, so this is Scarlet, and we're just working her a little bit, trying to get her used to a back tie and a leash. I've been playing with my dogs a little bit lately, trying to get some of them used to things that we haven't really been working on a whole lot. And I'll get to the point of the video in a bit. But the reason why things have been a little slow in our work is I've had to deal with a lot of distractions. Some of those distractions are things beyond my control. Just like you're gonna have things in your life that are beyond your control. For example, my mom's 92 years old, and she probably won't be with us much longer. You may have seen that in one of our other videos. And then also, last year, my wife battled cancer about a year and a half ago now, and finally got cured about, I guess you could say, 8 months ago. And so we've been distracted with various things, and it's kind of been a roadblock for me to get some of the dogs out and expose them to all the things that they need to be exposed to. But I have to own that. I have to understand that there are things that these dogs can do that I haven't been doing with them, and that's not their fault, that's on me, okay? But at the same time, we can't give them a pass just because I didn't do my part. They still have to earn their way and show that they're capable of and worthy of contributing the desired genes to the next generation. And so to do that, I have to get dogs now that some of them in the kennels have passed their imprint phase on when you can really get them used to things. And I'm gonna have to work around that, and hopefully I can build past it. And I was having a conversation about this with someone, and I seemed a little bit closed-minded probably to them. And I want to address that because I understand, okay? I understand what they're coming from. And that was because this person had bred an American Sentinel with another breed of dog. And I wanted, and they were advertising it on one of the Sentinel websites. And I was like, we can't do that because the dog has to show that it's worthy. And that person got a little defensive, and I understand. So I want to take a minute out and explain my position to the world, because it's not about that person. It's about me trying to make the best dog possible, and also me being the best person that I can be. And truth of the matter is, registrations have limitations, and I need to reevaluate some of my own beliefs. And one of the reasons why the American Sentinel exists is because I wanted to make improvements on the American Pit Bull Terrier, which in my opinion is the finest breed, pure breed, to ever exist. There's no dog that displays more tenacious determination than the game-bred American Pit Bull Terrier. And this dog is not even really developed. This is just a house dog, right? So we're gonna try to get them used to some of the things that they're not used to, like she's never really been on a back tie. And so, truthfully, she's seldom walked on a leash. We've always walked Reptar on a leash because Reptar has done protection work. But Scarlet here has been just a house dog that was walked loose off leash. And so we have to get her used to things that she needs to be used to. Okay, so how are we gonna do that? We're gonna adjust to that. All right, and so we're gonna see, she'll probably change some of her mannerisms here as I work her on a back tie, something she's never been on. So we're gonna probably see a little bit different behavior out of her in the next 30 seconds. I hope that you guys can hear me okay. Good girl, Star. Good girl. Where's that? Where's that? Where's that? Where's that? Where's that? And so I'm not going to keep her at the end of the leash the whole time. We're going to get her in her comfort zone and go out of the comfort zone. And that's one of the points of this video. All right. So let me look at a list of notes here that I've got to make sure I start off and address this video correctly. All right, so one of the things that I have written here is once you learn truth, you're a fool if you ignore it. You know, one of the biggest problems in breeding dogs is something known as kennel blindness. We don't want kennel blindness because that allows contamination of the gene pool. And honestly, for the dog's sake, I really shouldn't be making a video while I'm doing this. I'm doing this dog work so you, the viewer, can see truth. Some of the things that we encounter in life are not going to be perfect. Good girl, good girl. And so, here we are. All right, one of the things about the American Pit Bull Terrier that make it so great is its determination. And we, as owners, handlers, trainers, breeders, need to make sure that we channel those abilities into appropriate measures. And this is one of the faults about registrations and breed standards. Registrations, all they can really do at best is confirm pedigree. They cannot make sure that breeders live up to the standards that are written in the breed standard. That's going to be up to the breeder. And so I was very careful when I wrote the American Sentinel Canine Registry about the traits that I was looking for in the American Sentinel Canine, because I want to produce basically a pit bull with two modifications. One, more size for extra strength, power, and durability. And two, a little bit better protective instincts, because pit bulls, some people don't like the term, but they're a little bit sleazy in general. And by what I mean by that is they tend to be friendly to strangers. I think a good pit bull, or a good dog, let me rephrase that. I think a good dog is like a good woman. They can be friendly, but they're not too friendly. Not with everybody. You know, they save that emotional connection. Hey, off! Come here. Chewy, come here. They save that emotional connection for the ones they know and love. Hey, Chewy. Whoop, 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 whoop. Whoop, whoop. Can't even see it. Go. There we go. Now we got her. All right, so we're gonna put Chewy on a back tie. She's got that other one wrapped up in her. This dog has the drive of a pit bull or a Malinois without question. But she's got more size and more durability than those breeds. And so she's gonna be able to have a greater potential as a family companion guardian than those breeds. She may not have the some of the traits that Malinois and Dutch Shepherds may have that may be beneficial for police work or for sport work or your average trainer, because there are special things to those types of applications that maybe the Sentinel falls a little short of. I don't really see that, to be honest with you. I think the Sentinel can do everything they can do if you get a good example. But let's just, without bringing that into question, let's just give the Malinois and the herders the benefit of the doubt. Come here, girl. Here. Come here. Sit. Sit. Here. Here. Sit. Good. Good. Nope. Now, even though Chewy has had better development than some of the dogs that we're going to need to work, I said one of the things that's important for a breeder or trainer or in a person is to seek objective truth. Objective truth is going to allow a person to take their program and breeding program to the fullest ability. All right, so she had to dig on that because she's on a bungee. All right, we're going to progress with a slicker puppy sleeve This is made out of a Syntec. It's not a French linen. It's a little slippery. Not real slippery, but a little slippery. But you'll have to grip it to hold it. Otherwise, it'll pull out of her mouth. All right. And so, one of the problems with breed standards is the standards are oftentimes written about around bias. And we need to make sure that we're not subject to kennel blindness. We need to avoid breed bias. And that's why the Sentinel exists. Because the standard for the American Pit Bull Terrier restricted my selection processes to only the true game bred American Pit Bull Terrier, which is great for what it is. Like I said, I have no breed in mind that I can think of that I respect more than the purebred game bred American Pit Bull Terrier. But I wanted to take that and improve it for my desires, which is the family companion, guardian, or hog hunting. I am not a dog fighter. I don't want to be a dog fighter. And there are some people out there that believe that that's the only purpose for the American Pit Bull Terrier. I disagree. As various breeders in the past have said, the American Pit Bull Terrier can do just about anything that any other breed can do and then whip it at the end of the day. And I find that to be true. So there's obviously a lot of things that we can do with the Pit Bull besides that, the illegal activities, and direct it into an appropriate and beneficial platform. Their determination is why universities like Mississippi State University have chosen the Bulldog as a mascot. True, the Bulldog at Mississippi State is totally different from the game-bred American Pit Bull Terrier today. But when that mascot was selected, the Bulldog was why they did it. It was because the Bulldog symbols determination. Now, here I have a leather pillow. This is leather filled with foam, very hard to grip. She's never seen this a day in her life. Good. 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 Good girl. Good girl. Up. Sit. Down. Sit. Three, sit. Sit. Good. Okay. Nice. Good girl. Up. Down. Okay. Nice. Take a grip. I'm kind of leaning on purpose so you can see her grip. Nice grip. Let her have it. All right. So next, how are we going to get past the bias of the breed standard? And this is where we need to quit worrying about pedigrees to a certain degree. It's been said, a good dog is where you find it. Now, personally, if I had a good dog with an unknown pedigree, I'm not going to use it in my program because I want to know that that good dog carries a high percentage of desired traits. And for me to know that, I need to know the traits not only in that dog, but also the traits in that line. And to know that, I need to see individuals from that line. And so this is what I mean by it's important to have registration. So we can look at the dogs behind the line to make sure that the individual good dog that we're looking at not only has good traits, but carries those traits because at a high level of frequency, probably a high level of what's called homozygosity, because it's carried, those traits are carried in that line. Now, but if you had a breeding program with, let's say, 50 dogs, and you had one of the best breeding programs in the world, and then someone else had a line of dogs that produced a line that was also on par with what you produced or very close to it, and they had an individual that let's say their line was slightly below yours, but still excellent. And then they had an individual that apexed everything you had. To me, that would be a dog worth bringing in, because that dog has something in that line being expressed that benefits the performance attributes. And this is a problem for registrations, because registrations will say you can't bring those traits in. And that's why I felt trapped when it came to producing what I want in an all-around dog. I had to take the pit bull and then modify it to produce the American Sentinel. Now, an ethical person, every time they do something like that, the cross is a cross. You cannot call it a pit bull. You can't. It's different. It's no longer a pit bull when you do that. When you bring in that outside blood, you've made a new population. And so my stamp on that is the American Sentinel. I think people make mistakes quite often by naming dogs after themselves. It puts them on a totem pole that they think they're prideful or whatever. And this is one of the reasons why in the beginning I didn't want to name it myself. I named the dog early in the program after Don Swinford, but I changed the name on that because honestly his objectives were different than mine. And he lived a lifestyle that I'm not really in alignment with. But I felt like that was not going to do justice to the objective. The objective had to be defined in such a way where the name, American Sentinel, defined the breed. It's a dog breed that was developed in the United States of America, and the purpose was to be the family companion guardian. Sit. Up. Down. Good. Sit. Good. Now I lured her a little bit because she's not real good going from the down to the sit. That's called being objective, right? I'm aware of that. So she's gonna get better, and when she does that, good, then I'll reward her for that behavior. Down. Oh, she's tangled up on the lead. Not her fault. Well, come here. You gotta work through it. Sit. Good. Sit. Good. Down. Good. I'm going to lure her to the sit, and then we'll give her the reward. Sit. 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 Good. Yeah. Good girl. Good girl. Better counter. Better counter. So the counter, I want a deeper bite, right? I want her to choke up, get her to her tonsils, not just on her canine. Now I'm giving her time to think through this. It's something called the predictive failure theory. I was trying to remember if it was failure predictive theory, but no, it's not. It's predictive failure theory. So they're going to make a prediction about what's to be expected, and they're going to fail. And when they fail, the greater the failure, the greater the deviation from what they think is going to happen and what's happening, the greater the learning. A small deviation, a small learning occurs. A greater deviation, the greater the learning. Notice, she countered, and got it deeper, and I gave her some fight. There you go. Now, whoop, flip it on her because it's leather, baby. There you go. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. All right. Good girl. Come here, Chewie. Up. Sit. Good. Down. Good. Okay, good. Good. Good girl. Good girl. So if I had to step outside of the American Pit Bull Terrier in order to produce the perfect dog, the American Sentinel, then why wouldn't I let other people do that to make the American Sentinel better than it is? And the truth is I will. But the dogs that come in have to be proven. They have to be proven, honestly, probably harsher than the ones that are already in. The truth of the matter is everything should be proven harshly. But once you have a successful product, you have a responsibility to protect that product. Once it's in, you can't take it out. If you're making a cake and you put a little shit in it, You can't ever get that little bit of shit out. No matter how big you make the cake, that little bit of shit's still in there. So you have to protect it to make sure you're not bringing in anything that you don't want. Now, the original foundation should have been tested very stringently. There's no doubt about that. And every generation should be tested very stringently. There's no doubt about that. But again, once you have that product, it's not sacred. There's nothing sacred but the creator. But it's valuable, and it costs a lot of sweat, tears, time, money, and work to produce that. And you have to protect it. Outside blood is welcome if it meets the criteria. But I do want to make sure there's not a little shit in it. Good girl. Good girl. Now, when I had this conversation with this person that wanted to bring in this outside blood, they gave reference to a dog of mine, and I'm going to mention the dog by name because I'm not a secret keeper. People may think that, oh, Lee did this, Lee did that. He doesn't want to let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. When Hops was a puppy, Hops was a puppy that displayed a ton of potential. But my life was messed up. I was dealing with, like I said, my mother was very ill. She's been battling illness for a number of years. My uncle had passed away, and I had to be involved in the management of that estate, even though there was many nephews and nieces in that involvement, because he didn't have any heirs, and my mom was too old to represent her brother. And his other brother, or their other brother, had already passed, and then another brother was too old to represent his estate. So all of the cousins, which were his nieces and nephews, had to get together and deal with that. And it took a lot of time with that. I was dealing with my mother. I was dealing with other people in the life that have alcohol and drug related issues that I had to intervene and step up. You know what? It doesn't matter. Regardless of the excuses, the dog cannot be in the program unless the dog displays those traits. And so I told this person, hey, look, I want to work Hops, but I just don't have the time. I got too much on my plate. So we fostered Hops out. I didn't even sell her. I gave her to a friend, and I said, take that dog and see what you can make of her. If she doesn't work out, bring her back to me, and then I will try with her again, because she doesn't have a pass yet. Now, even if we bred her, the pups would not have a pass yet. Those pups would have to show that they have those traits. Because there's 3 ways to deal with a dog. Well, really 4, but I'm going to lump the first 2 together. 1, you train the dog and develop the dog to its full potential and it has the genetics to pass. 2, you don't train the dog to its full potential, but it passes anyway. In both of those cases, the dog had the genetics to pass. So we're going to call that 1. Okay, so that's your first one. The second situation is you don't know if the dog has the genetics required to pass because you didn't do your job and it's not at its potential and the dog failed the test. But you don't know if the failure was from a lack of genetic ability or because me, as the owner and raiser of that dog, did not do my part. That dog needs to be reevaluated and retested. And if it's past the imprinting phase, it may be a lost cause. Because if you put Albert Einstein in a closet for the first 15 years of his life, and you took him out, they know that because of studies that have seen neglected children, that they won't even communicate and be able to learn properly. So that doesn't change that dog's genetic potential. It doesn't change Albert Einstein's genetic potential. Look up the girl that was raised by wolves or dogs. She was raised by dogs, and she literally ate and drank out of a bowl like a dog. Her parents let the dog raise her. It's a disgusting case. I think it was in Russia. They tried to teach her, and I think she ended up finally, after many years, learned a couple of words, but she never learned how to interact and communicate properly. Messed up forever. So there's 2 ways to deal with that dog that fails, and you don't know if it's because the genetics are lacking or because you didn't do your part. One of those ways is to call the dog and just treat it like a failure. Another way, if you want to try to look at that blood, would be to breed that dog, but all of those prospects that come out of that breeding are not allowed in until they themselves pass the test. And if they pass the test, then you can let it back in. If they don't pass the test, you can't. The third method is a failure and you did your part. The first one, the dog had the genetics and you know it. It didn't matter that you did your part or not, the dog had the genetics. The second one, you don't know if the dog has the genetics because you didn't do your part. The third one, you know the dog does not have the genetics required to display the necessary traits because you did your part and the dog still failed. In that third example, you have to cull them. So if that second situation ends up being a cull, it ends up being a cull and it needs to be eliminated. But this is not a justification for bringing in outside blood. That blood, that line behind Hops was already proven. Her parents were proven, her relatives were proven, that whole family had been proven. It was Hops that I messed up on. And maybe Hops had the requirements and maybe she didn't. And if she didn't, just like other dogs that have been produced, they would have been culled from the breeding program. Because the only ones that are allowed to stay in the breeding program are the dogs that have the traits. This is what I mean about objective truth. I need to know what is on the dog and what is on me. Good girl. Where's your toy, girl? Oh, I took it from the business. We've also got a couple of wedges here. I have a bunch of items. We have a burlap sack. I have a tug on a line. I have a tug with no line. I have a longer tug with a line. I have a Sentinel tug. This is a cool tug. Some people don't like it because it's Sentinel, but it's really good for working puppies with little needle teeth that have a pointy little grip, and it makes them really bite good. You can get it from Hard Dog Records. It's called the Falcon Tug. And then we have just a regular bite wedge. This is from Elite Canine. Then we have one that I made out of leather. Look at the athleticism, boy. So how am I going to make that objective measure? I need to test the dog. And this is where things like the size of the dog, it should be 70 pounds to 100 pounds, 60 pounds to 90 pounds, 50 pounds to 130 pounds. You're like, what? That's crazy. My point is, why do we limit ourselves? The question shouldn't be about a number on a piece of paper. It should be, does the dog win or does the dog lose? That's the way the standard should be. So we're going to be redefining our standards. I need to go back through it. Yes, I have the American Sentinel Canine standard on the website. I've had it on there for years, but it was always designed around performance, except for a fallacy that I was not seeing myself. And that fallacy is, even though I was trying to model natural selection, win or lose, I put in restrictions like the size of 65 to 110 or 75 to 110, whatever it was. It shouldn't be that way. It should be, does the dog do it or does the dog fail to do it? Does the dog stop a hard hog? See, what if we just had Mighty Mouse, a little 2-pound mouse that could throw around King Kong. When we encounter greatness, we need to be open to it. We shouldn't let blindness prevent us from growth. All right, I've got a list of things that I wanted to discuss. Let me check a few of them off. Objective truth, done. Once we learn truth, it is a fool that cannot incorporate into the repertoire. Getting the most out of you and your dogs. The greatness of the American Pit Bull Terrier due to its determination. Why did I invent the American Sentinel? The limitations of registrations are that they only track pedigrees, but can they track truth? Really, breeders can lie. And you might say, well, we DNA tested the dogs. DNA tests can lie. Let's say I have dogs A, B, and C. I'm gonna breed dog A and B, but nobody likes dog B. They always like C. But let's say dog C is, let's just say I'm a lying piece of crap. All right, dog C, let's say, is sterile. And I can't breed dog C. Well, if I can't breed dog C, I can take a DNA sample from dog B and say that he is the father. Send that DNA sample into the place that does the DNA test, and it shows that puppies are out of dogs A and B. You don't know that I took the sample from dog B. You think that the sample came from dog C. Just like B was bred to the dog, B is the one that produced the sample. So registries can't do that. That's why you have to deal with honest breeders. people that tell the truth. And if you see somebody lie, question everything they do. Restrictive breeding standards. The standards, do they allow true objectivity? Our standards need to be defined by things like, I have a wall so high and the dog can jump it. I have a pickup truck and the dog can not only jump in the pickup truck, but it can do it with the tailgate up. All right? It needs to be physical requirements. The dog can restrain the hog, the dog can catch the bad guy, and the dog can endure a violent opposition with pleasure without showing signs of stress. That's what the American Sentinel is about. It's about the dog that can go into combat like the Terminator, a sentinel. That's what the word sentinel means, a true guardian that stands its post no matter what. All right? Objective truth for greater knowledge, wisdom, and power as we pursue life. We need to seek objective truth. There's so many people that won't seek objective truth because it requires work, it requires study, and they're lazy, or maybe they're biased and they just don't want to hear it. All right? There's a lot of reasons why people won't seek objective truth. We need to let results speak for themselves by using proper measures of standard. The dog cleared it, the dog cleared it. The dog did not clear it, the dog did not clear it. Okay, if I have a hurdle. We need to make sure the hurdles that we have in life, we find ways to overcome them, because in nature, if you cannot overcome the hurdle, you die. We must not let that hurdle become a wall that blocks us from progressing. We need to find a way, whether it's through speed, agility, stamina, determination, whatever it is, to turn that hurdle into a step so we can get over it and go to the next level. Okay? That's what we need to do. We need to turn hurdles into steps so they do not become walls, so we can continue to grow. And to do this, we need objective performance measures. Maybe I need a sprint course and we need to time the dog's speed. I'm not trying to breed racing dogs, but I cannot allow unathletic dogs. So there needs to be a minimum basic physical standard. There also needs to be an endurance test. There needs to be a heat tolerance test. I have some results that came back from 3 people that did embark on their dogs. And one of the things that I saw in one of the tests was there was a gene in the American Sentinel that showed high performance in low oxygen environments. And I thought, wow, that's weird. They actually have a gene to recognize that a dog is able to perform well in low oxygen environments. I thought it was pretty cool, and it doesn't surprise me because these dogs have a tremendous amount of endurance. They tried to say that it came from the Tibetan Mastiff or some mountain region. I don't know, because there's no Tibetan Mastiff in there. But the 4 breeds are going to be the American Pit Bull Terrier is the biggest component. Then we have the English Mastiff, the Neapolitan Mastiff, and the Tosa Inu. Is the Tibetan Mastiff in some of those Mastiffs? Who knows? Deer Run Kennel, Tobin Jackson was known to cross some different Mastiff breeds when he was developing his lines of the Mastiff and the Presa, but who knows? All right, next. I see some people suffering from depression as they deal with the inconveniences in their lives, and they continually repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. And you've heard probably the statement that crazy is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. We must accept objective truth. The world is not going to change. We have to change. If we want things to be different, we have to change. So don't expect the world to change. Expect yourself to change. And to do this, you must be open to objective truth. Now, with that said, I recently saw somebody defending the trait of Merle. Why do we DNA test dogs? We DNA test dogs to look for markers of genetic disease. Because if you breed 2 dogs that carry a genetic recessive disease together, then the offspring can have a disease even though the recessive heterozygote does not have the disease. Meaning the carrier doesn't have the disease, but the offspring can. Now, the Merle gene is a dominant gene. It's not a recessive gene. However, when you breed 2 Merles, you get kind of like a recessive response. And that is, you get the propensity of melanin not being properly developed. And because of this, you get blindness and deafness in the offspring. Any dog that is homozygous for Merle has the condition of deafness and blindness potentially occurring. And it's at a high frequency when you get a double Merle. As a result of that, why not eliminate Merle from the gene pool? They're like, well, it's not a problem if it's heterozygous. It's a dominant color, but it's a recessive disease. So the color tells me the dog has it, so I just won't breed a Merle with a Merle. There's something called a cryptic merle. Once you introduce merle into your population, you can get what's called a cryptic merle, which is a merle dog that doesn't show the merle color, but it still carries that gene that can produce dogs with the blindness and deafness if it's bred to a merle. Additionally, when you have that in your population, you can never breed best to best if they're merles. So the less we have to eliminate, the better off the program will be. Because when you bottleneck the gene pool, you're going to potentially eliminate desirable traits later on. Now, if you get merle all in your population because you like it, and you have good dogs that are carrying this population, now you can't breed your good dogs with your good dogs if they're both merles. And so now you eventually think, well, I want to eliminate this. And to eliminate it, you have to cull the merles, slowly or not slowly. That's going to hurt your program. Eliminate, if you want to use a dog that's a merle, let's just say she was merle. If she was merle, and I thought she was the best dog in the world, I could breed it and I could cull it in one generation, eliminate all the merles, test the offspring to make sure they're not cryptic, and then I could take those great dogs and use them in the program. But I've culled the merle gene from the population the same way I would do a recessive genetic disease, because we don't want that in there. The whole purpose of a DNA test is to get a DNA marker on paper that says carrier. When you see a merle dog, it's telling you, I'm a carrier. Why would you do a DNA test, but you're going to ignore what it's showing you? They're a carrier for deafness and blindness. Eliminate it. Don't use it. Refusing to learn because of fear, ignorance, bias, or laziness is a great way to become an unsuccessful breeder. Show breeders like to do this. I oftentimes hear show breeders say, when two dogs are equal in all measures, but one has better structure, the dog with the better structure will perform. Okay, that's a great fantasy, because two dogs are never the same. You're never going to have two dogs exactly the same unless they're identical twins. And if they're identical twins, they're going to have the same structure. So when they say if you have two dogs that are the same in every measure except for structure, that's not a valid thing. You would actually have to be identical twins to have everything the same genetically. And then the performance would be the same minus the nutrition and conditioning. Okay? So it's an irrelevant statement. If you really believe that, if you think that the one with the best structure is going to beat the other dog when everything else is the same, then test it. Take your bias and throw it away. Test it and let the winner represent. This allows your truth to be true if it is true, but it also allows the truth to be true if you're wrong. Because if the other dog actually has something like commitment, maybe that commitment overcame that dog's weakness and allowed it to succeed. And you need to throw your bias out the window, okay? We need to conquer lies and deception in order to gain truth. Now, this doesn't mean we need to be disrespectful with people. I try to be coachable when I can be coachable, and this causes me self-reflection on myself. Like I said, I need to be careful about limiting the registration on the American Sentinel to non-breeds. I need to have an open stud book. The problem is I need to make sure, by open stud book, what that means, for those of you that don't know, when a registry closes its stud book, that means the only dogs that can produce that breed in the future are the dogs that are already in the book, male or female. Yes, it's called the stud book, but it includes males and females. It's the breeder book, the breeder log. The only dogs that can be used are the dogs that are already registered. Now, this is not a good mindset, because let's just say hypothetically that there was some guy that bred these dogs like Tobin Jackson who violated rules, but let's just in this case say he didn't violate rules, and he produced the best dogs of a breed, and he did it for 30 years, and he's got dogs better than anybody else's, but he just didn't care for registrations. Are you going to say those dogs can't be included? That's pretty stupid. Okay, if he's got some of the best dogs around, they should be allowed into the stud book. Well, and on that note, there are certain breeds that I will not allow in the American Sentinel because they have a high degree of allele traits that are undesired for the standard. I don't want any Catahoula mountain dog or any type of merle dog brought into the population because they carry those merle and cryptic merle traits. So we can't allow that into the population. I don't allow breeds like Rottweiler into the American Sentinel because the Rottweiler is a rank-driven dog, and it's called a rank cur by pit bull enthusiasts because it only will fight for dominance. Once that Rottweiler knows that it can't dominate or establish rank, the dog curs out, which means quits and goes to barking or evading. The Sentinel is supposed to be a determined dog. The other problem with rank drive is rank-driven dogs like to dominate their masters when they get the opportunity. This is not acceptable in a protection dog. That's a liability. Rank behavior is a liability. They will actually, in some situations, challenge their own family member when the opportunity arises. I heard about a cane corso or band dog cross. It was out in California. The man got out of his bed, bent over to put his slippers on, and when he was in a vulnerable position, the dog bit him in the back of the neck. I don't know the breeding behind that dog. It had nothing to do with us. But that is a rank-driven dog, and I think it's best to avoid dogs that display that type of behavior. So yeah, there are certain things that we're going to try to avoid. And one of the biases that I'm going to preserve to some degree is bias against breeds that have a high frequency of traits that are undesired. Now, next, mastering what we are supposed to know before we step out of our comfort zone. Now that might sound bad. People oftentimes, you should step out of your comfort zone, step out of your comfort zone. And that's true, we should. We 100% sure should step out of our comfort zone, but we should only do that as a student. When we are really trying to work at something to become the best that we can be, we need to stay in our comfort zone until we are a 100% master every time. I don't care about, like, let's just say I had a Ferrari over there and you wanted to be a mechanic and go work on my Ferrari. You've never worked on a Ferrari before. So let's say that you changed oil on the Toyota Corolla for 20 years and you were really good at changing oil on a Toyota Corolla. That's great. Once you get really good at that, maybe you can learn how to take an engine out of a Toyota Corolla, but you ain't working on the Ferrari. You need to advance your skills progressively to get better and better and better. So let's say I'm going to teach a child how to count. I'm going to teach them to count 1 through 10. If they mess up on 3, 4, and 5, and let's say they go 1, 2, 3, 7, 4, 5, they're not ready to count to 100. They need to get 1 through 10 right many, many, many times in a row perfectly before we teach them to count to 20. And they need to get that right perfectly before we teach them to count to 100. And they need to get that right perfectly many times before we go beyond 100. And maybe we should also learn how to count down, or count by 2s, or count by the odds, or count by 5s, or count by 10s. You get the idea. We're going to master counting before we do addition. Then we're going to be really good at addition. If I have 100 addition problems on a test and you get 99 of them right, but you miss one, you're not ready for subtraction. We're going to get 100 right, and we're going to get 100 right every time. And then when you get 100 right multiple times in a row, then you're ready for subtraction. And then after you've done that, then we'll do multiplication. And before we do any division, you're going to get 100 multiplication problems right. And you're going to do it multiple times. And then when you do that, then we'll do division. And then after we get all 100 questions right, whether it be counting, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, when we get all those problems right, then we might do exponents or pre-algebra. Then we might do pre-algebra. And after we do pre-algebra and we get all those right, then we'll do algebra. Stepping out of the comfort zone is important. But mastery of your current position is more important. The fundamentals are essential to proper growth. So this is something that I taught my son. Now I'm going to brag for just a minute. My son, if you watch this channel, you may know that my son graduated valedictorian. My oldest daughter graduated with a 4.0. My son graduated with a 4.12 or something ridiculous. It was crazy high because he took honored classes and got A's in them. So he got above a 4.0 because those were weighted courses. He graduated valedictorian, went to community college because he could have gone straight to college, but he's like, you know what, Dad, I'm going to save some money. We're going to go to community college because I can get paid to go to school. Yes, he gets paid to go to school at community college. He was on the president's list. He's getting who's who, and he's also getting the highest award possible from the college in the Department of Mathematics. He has done extremely well, and he still has a 4.0. I'm blessed with him. You can do it too. The thing is, you must master the fundamentals. The foundation is everything. Once you master the fundamentals, then you can step out of your comfort zone. And that's where you're going to have errors. Errors are not permitted in your foundation. If you've changed the oil on Toyota Corollas for many years and you're perfect at changing oil on a Toyota Corolla, I don't want you to see you make any errors on a customer's car. When a customer drives in and they have a problem with their radiator, I'm not putting you on that job. You can change their oil, but I'm not putting you on changing the radiator without supervision, without coaching, without training. I'm going to make sure that you've mastered anything to 100% success before you're allowed to work on a client's car in an area that you're not an expert in. There's so many people out there that claim that they can do things that they do not know how to do, and that leaves the customer paying or living with a problem. This is wrong. It's theft. It's deception. Okay, we can't allow that. So yes, it's important to step out of your comfort zone to develop new skills, but you don't do that until you've mastered your current position. And then when you step out, you get training and you have coaching and you learn along the way. Next. The next one that I have on here is dealing with evil. This is a common problem in the breeding industry because there's a lot of backstabbers and thieves in the breeding industry and training industry. There's people that are jealous or that are insecure. It doesn't matter how many dogs I sell, y'all. This is not my purpose in life. My purpose is to serve my Creator and to represent Him in all that I do so I can bring others to the glory of God. And it's not me saving them. It's me bringing them to God so He can do the work. If I can bring them to Christ, then maybe He can save them. And to do this, we need to do the best that we can, and we cannot be our best unless we're willing to be objective and truthful. A lot of people want lies. It's been oftentimes said, tell people what they want to hear, but give them nothing. That is the way of a parasite. That is not how I'm going to live my life. I'm going to say what needs to be said, and sometimes it may cause me to look like the bad guy. But you know what? I can't allow evil to partake in the program. If I know somebody is a liar or a thief, I have to address that with them. I might even make it public to warn others. That's not my objective, but it certainly would be justified if I chose to do it, should they first be given the opportunity to fix the situation and then choose to not do so. All right. I am disgusted by the amount of cowards, thieves, liars, and evildoers in the industry. I have seen people do things with dogs that are unjustifiable, hanging them by their collars, swinging them on leashes, on their leash, in a circle off the ground, choking them to death to the point, I mean, maybe they didn't die, but they had holes in their neck. I wasn't there, I couldn't do anything about it, but I saw the videos about it, and it's disgusting. This needs to be addressed in the industry. When we build our canine facility, I plan on having cameras going so our clients can see how we treat their animals. How do I deal with people that partake in deception and secrecy? I've had people contact me and say, Lee, I heard that you said such and such. And I say, who said that? And they don't want to tell me. What I should do, and probably will do in the future when they say that, is, well then, I'm not even going to address it. Because you're not going to let me know who the accuser is. You figure it out on your own. That's nonsense. If you're going to bring something to me to address, you need to tell me who said it, because they're talking about me saying I said something. And if I said something, I need to stand on it and own it. And if they made a false accusation against me, they need to stand on it and own it. Don't bring drama to me, okay? Because the way I deal with drama is I confront it. I want to know who said what and why did they say it. I don't do that. If I ask a person a question about a certain breeding, was the dog good or bad, and then another person says so-and-so, like let's say breeder A said this dog was no good, and you got a dog from breeder A, and they told you the dog was good. That puts me in a bad situation when you contact me about the dog or about the breeder, because there's a deception here, and I can't own that. I'm going to show you what both of you have said. I'm not going to, you settle your nonsense on your own, or tell me the source. It's nonsense that the secrecy and deception and drama is something that needs to be nipped in the bud when it comes to professionals. And if you're not willing to stand by what you claim is verbalized, then don't even bring it up. That's coward behavior, okay? We need to be professionals. Now, with that said, I know a number of people that want to be treated properly. They want to be treated equally, but yet these people will not treat other people properly and will not treat other people equally. This is not good, y'all. This is a problem. We, as people, cannot be hypocrites. We need to treat people the way we would want to be treated. And that means seeking what is good and just. Eliminate the bias, eliminate the hatred, and seek what's good and just. And if you have somebody that you trust to be good and just, and they say something that you think is unjust, maybe you should actually look at it and work that out with them, because one of you is wrong. And if I told you something that I think is just and you think it's unjust, then I need to look at your source and you need to look at mine, because one of us is wrong. If I refuse to look at your source to see if you're right, then I have a problem, and that needs to be addressed so I can be the best version that I can be. But if you refuse to look at my source to see if you've been fed a lie, then that means you have a problem. And you can't put your problem on me. Don't project your mistakes onto me. We all need to seek truth, and we have a responsibility to do that. If you want people to treat you equally, well, then you need to treat people equally. Stop with the hypocrisy, repent, and seek the Lord's will instead of your own. Let your bias and personal agendas be thrown away. Don't point at another man's sins if you refuse to look at your own sins when you did the same thing. Okay, if you're guilty of the same thing, then don't be blasting somebody else. Okay, we've all sinned, we've all fallen short, and this is why we need to be careful about casting judgment and throwing stones. If you want another man to forgive you for your sin, then you need to be willing to forgive theirs. Now, this is something that I have to accept. And this is another reason why I go back and I did not name the breed after me. I named it American Sentinel. It's not the Robinson dog. Although when I breed dogs on my yard, I'm breeding what I want, right? And when you buy a Sentinel from somebody else, they should be breeding what they want. But the breed is named Sentinel because no man is perfect except for Christ. If a building was named after you and somebody saw your sins, what would they do with that building? Would they burn it down because you did something wrong 20 years ago that had nothing to do with the building? That's the way our society is today. They want to burn things down when they find out that so-and-so did something bad. Let's look at a few individuals. Abraham Lincoln, Robert E. Lee, Martin Luther King, George Washington. All of these people have sins in their past. I didn't know it, but apparently Martin Luther King treated women very abusively. I didn't know that until like about a year ago. But that doesn't change the good that he did. Okay, he still did a lot of good. So what would they do to a building that was named after you if your sins came out public? If we only named buildings after perfect people, the George Washington Library, the Reagan Library, those things wouldn't exist because those people were flawed. Okay, all the buildings would be named after Jesus Christ. He was the only perfect one. So if that's the case, why do I put up with sinners? I put up with sinners because I'm a sinner. If you think that I've got all the answers, you're mistaken. I'm a sinner just like you are. Okay? I struggle with it, and I try not to be, and I try to repent and change my ways and continue to grow. And this is why objective truth is important. I also know that if I refuse to work with sinners, I will, even if I was perfect, if I refuse to work with sinners, I would be working alone, and all my work would be lost. We have to be willing to work with people that are not perfect in order to grow, y'all. We have to. I need to acknowledge my weaknesses. I need to have relationships with people that do not have the same weaknesses, so that when I falter, they can hold me, and when they falter, I can hold them. Together, we can stand. Divided, we fall, but together we can stand. We also need to eliminate fear of truth. You know, why do people have fear of truth? We need to be wise enough to grow beyond that. I'm seeking to develop objective standards in the American Sentinel so the breed can become its full potential. I'm going to have a hard time working on that because I don't know how to deal with confidence and comfort in combat. That's going to be a hard one to deal with because it's a moral test. Immoral to put a dog into a serious combative situation. Yes, you can hog hunt, but some hog hunts are not that hard. Some hog hunts are pretty easy. The dog goes and catches the hog on the ear, and it holds it for just a minute or two. You go in there and you stab the hog in the heart or lung, dispatch the hog, and the hunt is over, and the dog was never even really tested. There are other times when it is really hard. I know of one case where a hog crossed the river in the wintertime and the dog pursued it across the river, and the hunters were not able to get to it because of the ice and cold waters that were in the river. The hunters had to drive around to get to that dog and that hog. That dog fought that hog for over an hour. and dispatched that hog right as the hunters were approaching. The hunter stabbed the hog anyway to make sure and confirm that the hog was dead and whatnot, and it may have even technically still been alive, but it was basically lifeless. That dog fought a hard fight. I know of another dog that unfortunately was gutted while it was in hold, and it stayed in hold until the hog was dispatched. I know of another situation where a dog got tusked in the anus and his intestines come out of his anus, and the dog stayed in hold until the hog was dispatched. Not only that, but the hunter was concerned, how am I going to get this dog to the vet, because he had other dogs in the woods and they were baying another hog. And the only way he could get the dog to the vet that he needed to get to the vet was to get those bay dogs off that hog. He could not get them off the hog. He had to release the injured dog, and the dog had to go and catch that hog, and he had to dispatch the second hog with that dog that was injured so he could get the other dogs loaded up and take that dog to the vet. The dog survived, fortunately. It was a tough situation. But you can't create situations like that morally and ethically. So it's going to be difficult to come up with a way where there's an objective test. And this may be the only subjective measure that remains in the breed standard, because it's going to require a person of competence to make an evaluation, a judgment call. Was that confidence and comfort in combat, or was that just a dog working a fight toy like it works a frisbee, like something a golden retriever can do? It's not combat at all, because chasing an item in prey is not the same as enduring combat, where pain, intolerance, and things, when your own self-preservation comes into question. In my video, I left out a few things, so I'm going to pop those in here. So when it comes to the size of the Sentinel, not everybody can handle a 100-pound dog, y'all. Some people need a 50-pound dog. Should that be a pit bull? Should it be a Sentinel? Should it be a combination? That's a hard thing to address, and I want to figure that out for myself. Another thing, my age. For me to be disciplined and be the best that I can be, I need to get in shape. I'm aware of that. So yes, I'm going to hire some help, but I'm also going to step up my game on my own fitness. Recognize my weakness, but try to increase it to become a strength to the best of my abilities. And if it's still a weakness, hire as needed. Y'all take care. Earlier in the video, I said there's 3 ways of testing dogs. You have the dog that passes, the dog that fails but you didn't do your part, and the dog that failed when you did do its part. The dogs that failed when you do its part need to be culled, and the dog that passes, whether you did your part or not, can be bred. But the second one, we need to eliminate that, because that's not a desirable situation. Now, how am I going to eliminate that? I need to realize my own limitations of my age, my time, and whatnot. When I build my canine facility, I plan on hiring a staff person. Whether they'll work 3 or 4 hours a day for 5 days a week, it's going to be a part-time position, maybe an apprenticeship position, where they're going to do certain things like wash kennels, teach puppies how to walk on a collar, get them out in certain environments, maybe do a little bit of prey work, and then if they're willing to do an apprenticeship on behavioral and modification and training techniques, then we can do possibly some obedience and bite work stuff. And this is something that I have to do to make sure I never have the second situation happen. I do not like it when the second situation happens where I have a dog fails but I didn't do my part. That has to be eliminated. I do not need to breed dogs and then let them grow up for a year and all they've done is be fed and played with, but never really properly developed or stimulated. Every dog needs to be properly developed and stimulated in order to have a fulfilled life, in order for me to have an objective measure in my testing. I've had a number of people ask me about doing internships in order to learn from me, but I haven't been willing to do that in the past because I just don't have the resources for that. In my opinion, if you live in another state and you want to come here, how are you going to make a living when you're doing an internship part-time? It's not realistic. But when I have our canine building, we may be able to offer such things. But we're going to also pay our employees. We're not going to be a freeloader trying to get something out of nothing. Our goal is to create the greatest dogs in the world, and in the process becoming a better man myself. Okay, that's my goal, because breeding dogs and selling dogs is not my purpose in life. My purpose in life is to serve my Creator, and through my job and connections with other people that have a common interest, maybe making a connection with them that serves the Lord's will. All right, on that note, we are going to have a new channel on our YouTube channel. We have these on our YouTube channel. There's certain segments, like I don't know if they call them sub channels or whatever. I'll have to look at the word, but there's like categories, and we have categories for husbandry. We have categories for science, canine science. We have categories on genetics, which is probably in the canine science. We have categories on training protection dogs. We have categories for helpful tips, husbandry, whatever. We have these different categories. We're going to have a new category that we're going to put on our channel. It's going to be called the Christian Canine Coalition or something along those lines. Look, I'm 56 years old, and in my life, the longer I live, the more I'm interested in objective truth, but I'm also interested in serving my Creator, and I need to do that in all things that I do. And if there's no followers on it, and I'm the only one there, so what? It'll be good for me with my relationship with Him and my own personal growth. And if there's other people that want to partake in it, it'll be on that channel. I do not expect everybody to be interested in that, but it'll be there for those of you that want to see it. I hope that I can stick with it. We'll see. On that note, if there's anybody that witnesses this video that feels like I have done them wrong in some way, reach out to me. I don't want to treat anybody wrong. So if there's something that I need to make right with you, reach out to me and let's make it right. However, don't expect me to do something if you're not willing to do your part. Like that step 2 dog, or that condition 2 dog, I have a duty to the dog has a duty to provide genetics, I have a duty to develop. You have a duty to develop a dog. I know people that a lot of times want something for free. I've said this to multiple people, so if I've said this to you, this is not something that I'm mentioning because of my relationship with you. It's something I mentioned to many people, and that is, some people want Grand Champion Apex and they want it for free, and they promise they're going to title the dog. I probably had 10 different people that say, hey, if you give me a dog, I'll title it. I'm like, you approached me because you want a great dog. Something I've worked hard to do, and you want me to give it to you. You want my work for free? I don't expect you to work for free. I have a website, it's called AmericanBandDog.com. That's AmericanBandDog.com. I have been, over the years, participating in various social media platforms, primarily YouTube and Facebook. We've done a little bit of Instagram, a little bit of TikTok, and a little bit of X, the X platform. But I don't like those platforms. I don't like any of them except for YouTube. Social media is a huge waste of time. You end up scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and just seeing distracted things that are irrelevant to your objectives in life. So on what I want to do is on my channel, I want to just focus on my objectives. And if you have similar objectives, when you have that search bar at the top, you'll type whatever your objective is, and it'll take you to something that's relevant to you. I think it's important to get off of social media. And so I'm going to put on my website a canine discussion forum for topics that are related to the various things that I might have on my YouTube channel or my breeding program and whatnot. You'll see the topics there if you join. I hope to see you there, and I hope that we can actually get that going. I used to have a discussion forum on one of our old websites, but the new websites are quite a bit different since we have so many social media platforms. But social media is a terrible waste of time. I think it's important for us to go back to our websites. Now, the last 2 notes. All that's necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. You may see me post something from time to time that you disagree with. And if that's the case, and you can have a civil discussion without making personal attacks and accusations that you have not done research on, then we'll be glad to have that conversation with you. But if you're going to come in and make personal attacks because you already think you know something when you haven't done the homework, I'm not going to entertain it, okay? Maybe I'm wrong, and we can discuss it, and you can enlighten me. But maybe I'm right, and maybe your heart needs to be open to truth. Because I do know some people that consume lies, and they drink them up like Kool-Aid, and they think that they're right. And they haven't even begun to read chapter 1. They're so far from what's true, it's ridiculous. And there's a lot of cowards in the world that won't speak up because they're afraid they might be called something that they're not. Men, are you men or are you cowards, dude? If you're a man, you should stand up for what you believe in. If you don't believe it enough to stand up with it, then change your opinion. Form a belief that's worth having. If you claim to be a Christian, then don't be a coward that hides in the corners of the shadows of your house, that whispers to your wife and your children what you believe, but you will not stand on it to the world. Our Creator expects us to stand up for what's right, and we need to do it. And sometimes you're going to be attacked for doing so. And judgment will come to you when you pass for what you stood up for. And if you didn't know you, He'll say, "Be gone from me, you never knew me." Because you didn't stand up for what His will was. You need to be willing to stand for His will. And on that note, the last one is, what is your purpose in life? We live once, and when it's over, judgment is here. You better live right. Oh, you want to get it. All right, so that was quite a serious conversation. Let's try to end with a little fun. Hey. 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 Good girl. Good girl. That's my girl. That's my girl. That's my girl. All right, y'all take care and have a blessed day. Let's put Chewy up.